Welcome to Conversations with Thought Leaders. My name is David Webley. I'm the founder and managing director of Granite Consulting. And today I'm delighted to welcome Andrew Boyd, the general manager and head of the digital natives business at AWS. AWS is the cloud computing services part of Amazon, and in latest figures has annualized revenue of over 37.5 billion. They're a number one market leader in cloud computing in size and offer over 200 services. So without further ado, welcome Andrew.
Hi, thanks Dave, good to meet you.
Maybe you could start by telling us a bit about the digital natives business at Amazon for those that might not be aware of it.
Sure, yeah. So the digital native business is focused on a segment of customers that are transacting, storytelling, engaging their customers online. So when you think about common names in that, Amazon itself is a digital native business. The likes of Uber and Airbnb and Netflix are again digital native businesses. And here in Australia, we've got some great names that fit that same models like Seek and Car Sales, and the new kind of billion-dollar unicorns like Afterpay and Zip Money.
Let's talk about the legendary Amazon leadership principles. Can you tell us a bit about them, please?
Yeah, sure. So Amazon's got 14 leadership principles. They begin with customer obsession, and they're bookended with deliver results, and there's 12 in between. And you know, the thing I love about these leadership principles is they're constructed. Some of them are actually in conflict with each other, so that they kind of make you think, and kind of, you know, allows you to kind of think your thought process through and make good decisions. So, you know, bias for action is kind of in conflict with dive deep, because you need to move fast, but at the same time you need to dive deep and understand the problem and so on. So that creates a natural tension in there. And in addition to that, you've got the fact that these actually allow teams within Amazon to move quickly. It allows them to devolve that decision making and that ability to work for our customers, using them as the guiding principles, with their judgment to understand what they can do and how Amazon wants them to really think about empowering them and making sort of decisions for our customers that benefit them. So, you know, when I think about customer obsession in that, a lot of the story there is, you know, how do we make sure that everything we're doing has that end customer in mind? And so, you know, when we're designing a product or service, how do we, you know, think and account for that consumer and what their desires and preferences are? And then, you know, how do we then bring that back into? So we're working a lot of the time with digital native businesses to help look at things like data and analytics to gain that insight to their customers, you know, creating that kind of segment of one and that kind of storytelling ability, so that they can actually create a customer obsessed experience where, you know, they're really engaging with the audience. When I think of something like, you know, bias for action, there's a great example of that right now in COVID times. So some of our team has been working with First Group. Now, they are a digital native business that's been helping doctors' practices manage patients and sort of bookings and all of that, from across things like, you know, normal GP visits through to chiropractic and podiatry and all of that. And obviously they saw a huge impact in COVID. So there was a lot of people not wanting to go to the doctors. Medicare hadn't quite caught up in terms of allowing people to have bulk billed video consultations and so on. And we were actually able to kind of think about both bias for action and customer obsession there, to think, well, what do their end customers really want? You know, is it that people are simply, you know, not getting sick, or is it that they're not actually wanting to physically go to the doctor and there's a bit of anxiety around that? And then how do we help them construct a platform that will solve those challenges of their customers and the doctors accordingly? And so, you know, the people that in our business that work with them sat down and said, you know, for bias for action, how do we understand what those customers want? And then how do we help you build that? So, you know, how do we offer options for people to do video consults? And then how do we integrate that into your platform? So using Amazon Chime, how do we build a secure video conferencing platform that the doctor and the patient can make sure that they're engaged doing that appointment and diagnosis. And so we, very quickly kind of scope that out. Think about, well, how do we help prove that works? So, do they need a partner to help support them build it in terms of understanding some of the technologies? Can we grab some support from our service teams, and then can we help support them in terms of platform to make sure that the product is tested and working for them, and then help them roll that out. And that's really like bias for action shown there, kind of just accelerating that opportunity through.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for sharing. And I always think it's so impressive to see, the intrinsic principles, values of organization distilled through, every aspect of day-to-day life within the business. Andrew, what's your perspective on how COVID-19 has exponentially led to the mass digitalization of society? I mean, the one example that seems really glaring to me is the number of places that no longer accept cash, right?
When I think about what I've seen as a positive impact of COVID-19, I've seen businesses really pivot very quickly to those kind of digital models, and I've seen people think about how they engage very differently accordingly. And so there's great examples. When I think about my kind of personal life, I was chatting to a friend last night who is engaged in a pottery class online, and you kind of go, well, that's quite complicated to do. You need clay, and how do you fire it, and all of those kind of things. But actually, through an e-commerce platform and then a Zoom tutorial, they were able to get that clay delivered, and then the person was able to kind of run it as a bit of a educational webinar, and then help the people kind of do that creative on their own. And then the other examples that I see are really people thinking really quickly about how the online experience needs to be very different for end consumers. You can't touch and feel the products as if you were going into a normal store. So how do you kind of convey all of that information when people are kind of making those purchasing decisions? So you've got to make sure that you have a lot of kind of product images, a lot of detail around it, particularly around things like sizing and all of those kind of things, and sharing as much information as possible to make people comfortable with it. And then thinking about new models to kind of get these products and services to people. So you've seen a lot of companies. And Australia Post is working 24 hours at the moment, and you've seen great startup businesses like Ship It that are working with people now to kind of deliver that better consumer experience from the delivery side as well. And I think you're going to see a lot of these trends really continue. There's an element of convenience, there's an element of certainty and choice that comes with this digitalization, and so I think it'll be interesting to see how these trends continue.
I also think the best companies today and in the future will understand how to use the great technology that you describe, and then marry it with what I call good old-fashioned customer service, and recognizing there are some things that humans are still superior to technology for. And if you combine the customer focus, the community, with the technology and the human element, then you're really going to be onto a winner. What jobs do you see in demand in 10 years' time? And what career advice would you give to a 16-year-old today?
Yeah, it's an incredibly tough question around what jobs in that period of time, because things are changing and technology is evolving so much. When I think about what exists now, and even if you go back 3 years ago, in terms of things like IoT or machine learning and data and analytics, there's a lot of benefit of using those technologies to kind of augment people's roles and help them be more effective. So, the things I look for and the advice I give people is probably look for the constants and look for the things that roles are going to kind of constantly need. And then focus on also giving yourself broad experience and transferable skills to kind of allow you to move throughout the workforce. You know, I think about this in my own journey. I started life as an economist back in the UK, working in the Treasury. And, you know, I enjoyed economics, but, you know, I worked out pretty early on that the role wasn't for me, and it wasn't something that I was super passionate about. But I actually, you know, in doing that role, kind of got to work with a number of large technology companies that were solving the problems of implementing the tax policies that we created. And that kind of sparked that curiosity in me to go and explore those roles, because it was the different side of being able to kind of deliver the outcomes and actually and do that. And so for me, it's that sort of giving yourself a breadth of skills and experience to consider it. And I think, you know, when I think about the future of roles, I think technology is really going to augment people to give them that nature of, you know, real human ability. And so when I think about that, it's things like creativity. So, you know, when I think about the arts and actually how technology can be used to kind of compound how artists actually deliver their exhibits and so on. And we're always going to need roles like that, all the way through to, you know, you talked about maths and potentially, you know, an accountancy career or a technology career. And, you know, when I'm thinking about an accountant's role, it's really that understanding of their clients and, you know, the deep kind of personal relationship that helps them make those recommendations and guidance. And actually, if we can use technology to reduce the time that accountant has to spend kind of doing manual, repeatable, scalable tasks, it actually allows them to focus on the high order, high value parts of their role. And so, you know, thinking about that, I look at, you know, well, what are the roles that are going to have that real need for kind of human consultation and engagement and kind of insight? And then, yes, they might be changed and evolved by technology helping and assisting in them. But ultimately, it's that combined with that human nature delivers a better customer experience.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, a couple of points to draw out: the passion piece, you know, find out really what gets you up in the morning. We spend a lot of time at work, and we're going to have to work for longer than ever before. Certainly, we're all going to be working a few years more post-COVID, that's for sure. But, you know, you need to sort of find out what motivates you and find an intrinsic passion. But then also, I'm always saying, you know, when we hire talent for people, you know, what are the coachables? What are the non-negotiables? And then, you know, by that, I mean, reinforcing your point, having a broad skills, transferable skill set, but then also as a human, you know, trying to push yourself up the value chain, you know, use your soft skills and develop the bits that, you know, frankly, if something can be automated at some point in the future, it probably will be automated. But there are loads of things that can't be automated. So you need to work with those and really sort of try and push yourself up the value chain. So final question, Mahmoud Syed asks, many mid-sized businesses are keen to have a digital footprint. Are AWS proposing a simple set of cloud infrastructure options, which is also cost effective? He's observed that with so many services, AWS may be daunting for a new business. Is there a possibility for a simplification of the service offering?
Yeah, so that's the real challenge, right? So you want to make something really simple to get started and easy to consume. And then at the same time, as those businesses or demands mature, you know, the scope of the product set needs to be able to scale with them and offer, you know, more solutions and you know, solve more problems. So, you know, my best advice in this one is actually look to the partner ecosystem around AWS. So we've got the Amazon Web Services Marketplace. So the AWS Marketplace site lists a lot of these partners that have provided click to deploy solutions, you know, including bundles of licensing, and it automatically configures that for you. So you can go into the marketplace and say, for example, oh, I need to set up a website, and you can actually go in and double click and purchase, and then it will actually click and deploy and manage the infrastructure that you need to develop that solution. And then you know, the benefit is as you then scale that, and maybe you've built that site or that store, you might need like personalization or recommendations engines, and then you can go and bolt on those other products and services from within the AWS portfolio to help you solve those requirements as well. So, that's to me, the best way to get started. If you don't have that kind of technical support or builder mentality of bolting it together yourself, there's a huge number and array of solutions on the marketplace for that one. Fantastic.
Thank you, Andrew. Well, I think we're about out of time, everybody. So, Andrew, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you've got a lot on today, and I wish everyone a safe and healthy rest of the week. See you next time. Thanks.